Hey everyone, welcome into our latest Traded Black podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales, and tonight we're breaking down the biggest developments in the cannabis industry for the week of April the 1st. From major political signals out of the White House to Rubicon Organics dropping record-breaking numbers to New York looking to turn movie theaters into cannabis lounges. So a lot to get into, so let's get into it. All right, let's start with Washington, and not the news that we wanted this week, where the Trump administration released its initial drug policy priorities and cannabis reform is not on the list. According to the Office of National Drug Control Policy, the administration's top 6 priorities focus on cracking down on drug trafficking, combating the opioid crisis, especially fentanyl, and boosting treatment and prevention programs. So what's missing? Any mention of cannabis rescheduling. That's despite Trump previously signaling support for medical marijuana and even trying to include cannabis banking in last year's government funding bill. The White House did say, though, that the list could evolve, but for now, no action is planned on marijuana reform. Not the news that we wanted. Advocates call it a missed opportunity, especially since multiple studies have linked medical cannabis access to lower opioid-related deaths. Hello, anybody listening? Still, there may be hope. Trump's nominee for drug czar is none other than journalist Sara Carter, a media personality with a surprising stance. She's called medical marijuana fantastic and said she's got no problem with legalization as long as it's regulated. If she's confirmed, Carter could bring a more pragmatic, harm reduction approach to federal drug policy, though it remains to be seen how much sway she'll actually have. Let's watch to see how this develops. Let's now move to Ohio, where lawmakers are revisiting the adult use law voters passed in 2023, but not in a good way. HB 160, now under review, introduces THC caps, repeals social equity provisions, and even reintroduces criminal penalties for unlicensed cannabis possession. Advocates are calling it a bait and switch, and over in the Senate, Bill 56 is pushing similar, if not harsher, changes. Governor Mike DeWine is also angling to reroute cannabis tax dollars towards law enforcement. So, bringing this all together, safe to say Ohio's cannabis future is still very much in the air. In contrast, New York is making bold moves. Officials are floating the idea of allowing cannabis use in movie theaters. Yes, you heard that right. Movies and munchies may soon officially be paired. It's part of a broader approach to normalize cannabis and expand the state's market, which already topped $1 billion in sales last year. And in Virginia, the top cannabis regulator is stepping down, with political pressure building around adult use sales and the governor repeatedly vetoing legalization bills. New leadership could either pave the way or continue to stall. This is one to watch. Now let's jump into the business side, and starting with Rubicon Organics. Wow, what a week. The Canadian premium cannabis producer just wrapped up a record-breaking 2024 with $48.7 million in net revenue, a 21% jump year over year. Great job, Margaret and her team. And with the new indoor grow facility in the works, they're aiming for a 40% boost in output by 2026. Rubicon is doubling down on premium branding, full-spectrum vapes, and even eyeing international markets. So what does their 2025 forecast look like? More growth, more genetics, more market share. So if 2024 was a joint, 2025 could be a blunt. Organigram also made waves this week, acquiring Collective Project, a cannabis beverage startup, for a cool $6.2 million Canadian. The goal: to tap into the booming hemp-derived THC drinks market in the US and fast-track their Canadian beverage presence. Meanwhile, Forefront Ventures is a red flag. Board members are bailing, finances are delayed, and they're now paying directors in equity. Not a good sign. And Tilt Holdings, they just avoided lease termination after defaulting on over $4 million in unpaid rent. Is this the beginning of the reckoning for some of these companies? I think so. They've negotiated for now, but the company's financial footing is far from stable. On a brighter note, Canopy Growth is back on offense. They launched what's called Spectrum Reserve, a high-end medical flower line, and prepaid $100 million in debt, cutting $13 million in annual interest and buying themselves some breathing room. I think a lot of those investors at Canopy will like that. And finally, their counterpart, Tilray, is bringing back their iconic, if you're English, you'd probably pronounce it Jean Guy, French, Jean-Guy, and their strain back to Quebec. Local cultivation, local pride, and fresh packaging roll out just in time for the spring. Now let's head overseas to the European Union, where medical cannabis is gaining real momentum. We keep saying this on our live stream. Start with Germany, as it continues to lead the pack with partially legalized recreational use, reinforcing its already strong medical framework. In the UK, access remains limited through the NHS, but pressure is mounting for change. In the Netherlands, it's rebooting its system as recreational pilots roll out. And in France, it's taking baby steps towards more inclusive access. But what's the catch in all this? They're getting support from their individual governments. The EU's medical cannabis future, it's going to depend on harmonized regulations, better education, and a strong pharmaceutical partnership. But the direction is clear. More access, less stigma, and more investor confidence. Keep your eye on the EU market. That's going to do it for this week's recap of the Traded Black podcast. We're watching the cannabis industry really continue to evolve on all fronts, both politically, medically, and economically. Whether it's Washington shifting its tone, international expansion, or homegrown innovation, there's never been more movement, but also, keep in mind, still a lot of uncertainty. So make sure to stay open-minded, stay connected, and I always say, like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. We'd appreciate it here at TDR. As usual, scan this QR code and become a daily baked-in newsletter subscriber delivered to your inbox weekdays, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone, and thanks again for watching. I'm your host, Shad Dales.